Welcome to the Business Chaser, your quick pour of strategy, clarity, and momentum. We skip the small talk and get straight to the strategy here in these bite-sized episodes. We're here to help you grow smarter, market better, and chase what matters, all in 15 minutes or less. I'm your host, Lauren Najar. Tune in and let's chat.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Kimberly Roy, the founder of Pitch with Kim, and I am an authentic visibility and lead generation strategist. I'm passionate about empowering ambitious, heart-centered female entrepreneurs to confidently use their voice to authentically build their authority, increase their credibility, and expand their networks. And what all of this does is it leads to more clients, more leads, and more opportunities with ease. I do this through the lens of podcast guesting. And the reason I do this, first of all, there's passion behind this industry and this space. But the foundation of what I'm doing here is really creating impact in empowering women to use their voice to share their impact with the world, because you are the brand to your business. So when you can show up authentically, that is when you can create that energetic abundance, that ROI that you want to see come back in your business. So professionally, I'm a pitching professional. This is what I do. I help female entrepreneurs find aligned podcast opportunities to guest on. Essentially, that's what it is. I utilize the skill of pitching to really help them share that impact with the world. Now, pitching itself can have a negative connotation to it. But what I want to empower you to truly understand is that pitching is a form of relationship building. That's really all it is. So rather than think of it as a, cold approach or, a cheesy or a sleazy approach to reaching out to somebody, think of it as I'm building relationships, because that is the foundation of success in your business. You need human-centric relationships. You need to have connections and relationships with people to build your business and to create that impact. People, those are your clients, right? And so today, what I want to talk about is the strategy, my signature framework that I use for the clients that I do active pitching for, and for the clients that I teach how to do this, okay? This is the strategy I use, but what I want you to understand too is that it's more than just the strategy. That strategy component is the outer part of pitching, which is your visibility, it's the positioning, it's your messaging, it's all of that. The other half of that is very important, if not more important than the actual strategy itself, and that is the inner component of pitching. That is your authenticity. That is your energy. When you marry the two, that is where magic happens. So the framework that I'm going to talk to you about is the outer component of pitching. This is your strategy. And the framework I'm referencing here is the STAR framework. STAR. It's an acronym. Strategy, target research, approach, and review. Why am I talking about this? The common question I get asked a lot is, what goes into a pitch? What goes into a pitch? So while I can come on today and talk to you about what goes into a pitch, I know that you could easily turn around and use AI to help you with that. So instead of trying to mold you into a pitch template, I want to empower you to create your own inside of this framework, because that is what is going to stand behind your energy, your authenticity, how you show up to building those relationships with your ideal clients. So the strategy is the S in the STAR framework. And strategy here is the foundation of your pitching journey. And by pitching, I'm really referring to your visibility journey, because it doesn't matter what opportunities you're looking to call in. Is it podcast guesting? Is it speaking on stages? Is it collaborating with someone? Is it going to speak in someone's community? What is it, right? Fill in the blank. Maybe it's inviting people onto your own podcast. Whatever that is, it is a form of pitching. This could be written. It could be verbal. I'm a huge proponent of get creative with how you do this, okay? But the strategy is that foundation. So this is the who, the what, and the how of your business. Who do you serve? What is it that you help them with? Like, what is that transformation that you help them with? And how do you do it? This is your niche, is what we call it, right? Your messaging. I also refer to this as really knowing the psychological factors of your clients, your ideal audience, your ideal client. So who are they? What makes them tick? These are all important attributes to understand. What I want to emphasize here is to release perfection. Look, I know strategy is very unsexy. It is the one thing that none of us actually really want to sit down and do, but it is the most important because, like I said, it's the foundation. Everything is built on that. So really honing in on your strategy is so important here, and those psychological factors of your ideal clients, and releasing that perfection is important here too, because you don't want to wait for the right messaging or wait until you have it all figured out, because it's just going to evolve. It's going to evolve. You're never going to have it completely figured out. So work with what you have now is always what I say. But you have to start with that foundation, which is your strategy, the S in the STAR framework. Now, the T is target or target research. Once you have your foundation, now you have the keys to being able to find the right opportunities for you. This is where you can now start looking at communities to find those speaking gigs. You can start looking at the right podcasts to guest on. Because once you have your foundation, the strategic alignment there is key. And that's the bridge truly to finding the right opportunities. So targeted research. And there's a lot that goes into that, of course. But by targeted, I'm really emphasizing the alignment here. It's not about it's not about quantity. It's about quality over quantity always. Alignment is key here. So that's the targeted component of that. A is the approach, which essentially is your pitch. This is what goes into a pitch, okay? And it's also your method of outreach. So again, going back to that creative flair in an age that we are in right now with automation, with AI, and all of the tools that we have to make our lives so much easier, which, hey, by the way, I use them too all the time in my business. We need to make sure that we find a way to stay human in all of that, right? How can you stay human so that you stand out in the crowd and you don't look like just a generated copy and pasted pitch from, a script that ChatGPT spit out at you? So really getting creative here is important. How you reach out to people is important. And the biggest thing, again, that I'm going to emphasize here is making sure that you are personalizing that pitch. Make it about them. Even though you are asking something of them, it's not about you. It's about them. How is what you're asking for going to benefit them? Make sure you personalize that connection. So that's the A, the outreach, the approach in the STAR framework. Now the R wraps it all up together at review. This is the glue that holds it all together. The impact with your pitching journey, whether or not it's for podcast guesting opportunities, right, is your consistent effort behind it. Consistency creates momentum, and momentum is the energy. That's the abundance. That's what drives it, right? Consistent here, I want to be very clear, is not frequent. Consistent is what's a regular occurrence or, timeline that you have the capacity that you can commit to, that you can dedicate to, and then maintain consistency in that. So is it pitching 1 to 2 podcasts a week? Is it, pitching 5 a month? What is that for you? Is it 1 a day? Is it 10 a day? What does that look like for you? Define it and allow yourself to play with it so you can feel it out and get a feel for what feels good to you. But consistency. So the review component here to help you stay consistency is to create a workflow that works for you, right? So what does this look like? This is making sure that you're creating the tools and the resources for you. So as you're doing your research, right, back at the T for the STAR framework, targeted research, as you're doing your research, you're compiling all of the information that you need in a tracking method, right? Whether it's a spreadsheet or another software that you can use for tracking, but you're capturing all of the information, the host name, what's the podcast about? Is there a specific link for applying to be a guest? What's their contact information? How do you reach out to them? Get your information that you need. How big is the podcast? Who do they serve? What's the alignment here? Making sure you're compiling all that information. Once you refine your signature topics, have a document so it's easy for you to copy and paste from. You creating your pitch template, save that down so you can repurpose that template. So you're not reinventing the wheel every time and you're just grabbing it and then personalizing it, grabbing it, personalizing it. So there's a lot of variables at play, but the important thing here is tracking it. The other important variable in this review process is following up. I always say you never want to pitch and ghost ever, right? You have to follow up on those pitches. 60% of yeses actually come from those follow-ups. So again, your limiting beliefs are going to come into play here. You might feel like, oh, I don't want to be inundative. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want them to think I'm, too much. But the key here is to follow up. Think of your own inbox habits, rituals, right? How many times do emails get lost in the volume that you have in there? Or maybe you read it, you mean to reply back, things happen and you forget. We all lead full lives. And I'm trying not to use the word busy here, but we all lead full lives. So knowing that follow-ups are really important. And a lot of the times they're very, very, very well received. So making sure you're following up. And then tracking. It goes back to tracking, right? When did you send the pitch? Making sure you're holding yourself accountable and you're scheduling those follow-ups that you can follow the life cycle of that pitch and see it through. Once you schedule a podcast, making sure that you're documenting that, you're scheduling it. Also creating a document so that you have all your links easily accessible to you, any lead magnets that you have, your website, your social media, headshots, your bios, everything that you can possibly need is it safe down in a portfolio for you. All of this is inside of that R, that review. And the reason I call it review is because it's a rinse and repeat. That is the workflow, the glue that holds it all together. It's more than just sending out that pitch. It really is. And so that consistency in that roadmap, that workflow is what's going to drive the results for you. So STAR framework, to recap: strategy, target research, approach, and review. The approach is your pitch. That is the strategy, my signature framework that I have seen massive results with for my clients, for myself even. And that is the outer part of pitching. So again, when you take that and you meet the inner part of pitching, which is the soul aspect, where soul meets strategy, it's the energy, the abundance. When you marry the two, that's where magic happens. So I want you to get started with my free visibility guide. The 4 steps to consistent lead generation is exactly this. It's the STAR framework. It's going to walk you through step by step in more detail than what I just explained to you today. So start there, and then we can be in touch about next steps on how do you actually meet your soul with that strategy and nail your visibility.
That's your quick hit of clarity and momentum for the week. If it sparks something, share it with a friend or tag us in your stories at Business Over Cocktails and or at Lauren Najar. We love seeing what resonates. Don't forget, Mondays are for full-length episodes with rich conversations, and Fridays are the Business Chaser episodes. These are bite-sized insights pulled from our guests to keep you inspired and aligned throughout the week. Do you have a question or a takeaway? DM us at Business Over Cocktails. We just might feature it in a future episode. Cheers!